some random person that has clicked on this video laugh along with me at those imbeciles who think that their life has a purpose. Lamau! You're probably thinking to yourself, but Nux, that's a very asshole-ish thing to do. And yes, 100%. People that are upset with themselves internally are always assholes to others to make themselves feel better.
Nux, are you implying that you're actually dissatisfied with yourself and that's why you're an asshole?
Me? No! This is a philosophy that only applies to other people. No asshole is that self-aware. I mean, come on. Even a character like Rick, who's a massive asshole, and he lamaus at everyone around him for doing anything, literally anything, especially making believe their life has a purpose. This absolute mad lad is so self-aware that he knows he's in a TV show. He references episodes and season 4 premieres and all that jazz, but despite all that meta self-awareness that his character is given, the only thing he's not fully aware of is how much he's suffering. In the words of Bird Person, do you know what Wubba Lubba Dub Dub actually means? It means I am in great pain. Thank you, Bird Person, for illuminating Rick's dark side. Extremely cool. But to be fair, this is made plainly obvious based on context. He's the sadistic, always laughing, asshole-y character, but no one is hurting more than he is. Well, aside from the people he's hurting, but that's an entirely different story. For those of you who still somehow do not know, Rick and Morty is the greatest sci-fi anime of all time. But Nix, it's not a sci-fi anime. The fact that that's the most common response to whenever I say Rick and Morty's a great anime is laughable, okay? Across the spectrum, either I'm joking or I'm stupid. Don't get triggered over this shiz. I just dropped a life lesson right there, by the way. The story follows Rick, one of the greatest fictional characters of all time, super genius extraordinaire, who has become so callous based on all the things he's done, all the things he knows, and the fact that there's infinite timelines and infinite universes, so anything he does on the greater scale really doesn't mean anything, which includes losing loved ones or doing really heinous acts of evil. And you also have Morty, the guy that tags along with Rick, also Rick's grandson, and his reactions to the insane shiz Rick does is goddamn amazing. We'll make a Rick out of him yet. Well, in callousness, not really. In brains, that seems like it's far gone by now. Smash like, cause 50,000 likes and I will be uploading another Rick and Morty video soon. I love this show and I just need to make sure that you like it too, so I don't just upload random stuff that you're not interested in. Capiche? Dope. Strangely enough, I found myself very much relating to Rick's character. Again, not on the genius scale and not really on the depressive scale either, but then I realized, oh, of course I relate to him. He's a psychopath. Duh! Look at all my favorite anime characters. They're all goddamn nutsos. But it's a lot more than that on a slightly deeper glance. Rick does all these ridiculously crazy things, and he always seems like he's having a kick at it doing all this wacky shiz. And honestly, it's momentary excitement to take his mind off the inevitability of his life. They were visiting a world that had a purge thing going on, that once a year everyone would just kill each other out, and Rick was like all hyped to watch the purge. Momentary, wacky excitements. That's what Rick's into. The only girl he ever falls for, being that at the end of the day, despite being old, the man's balls still work. Mad respect to you, old timer. Is a hive mind that's taking over planets. He is not easily excitable, and he is extremely easily bored. He's seen almost everything there is to see. Anything that's slightly not natural to him is something that's completely bonkers to us. But living in the moment, jumping from excitement to excitement, doing crazy things to keep you happy, is just being depressed with extra steps. And that includes making assholey mockeries of everything and anything he comes across, because he does do that. He leaves no stone unturned when he's releasing his deadly asshole wave. Some people call asshole waves farts, but Rick has a definitely better style asshole wave, and one that unfortunately is far more dangerous because it's way more fun. Now, I'm making a lot of jokes about how spreading assholery is a sign of self-pity, and well, it is partially accurate even from a psychological, scientific standpoint. Step number 1 in being an asshole, and trust me, I've experience in this matter. You need to get a reaction. If you're just an asshole that doesn't get a reaction, well then, that is the least least satisfactory assholery you can even think of. I've tested all forms of assholery. I've received a PhD in the subject. You can take my word for it. If you don't get a good reaction, it is not satisfying at all, and you end up face palming hard like, why did I do that? I didn't even get a reaction out of it. And well, getting this reaction out of other people is almost seeking a justification. Not a justification for being an asshole per se, but at that moment in time, whoever you pissed off cares about you. Not in a positive light, but they care. There are many moments in Rick and Morty where Morty's preoccupied for one reason or another, and Rick does some crazy shenanigan that doesn't get a reaction out of Morty, and he says, well, I wasn't interested in it either. Without an overlaying consciousness reacting to whatever assholery you commit, it makes the assholery meaningless and you feel stupid for even trying to attempt it. Now, I've had my fair share of times where I've trolled on the internet. Not a lot, of course, but occasionally. And when it does, and I see the positive reactions of my viewers, honestly, that is 100% worth everything. Without that, it's worth nothing. It's easy to troll people and to piss people off. And having them pissed off is definitely part of the fun. But the overall enjoyment comes from the person that you appreciate. And if that person you appreciates what you've done, it makes it all worthwhile. Every YouTuber says, fan base, I couldn't do it without you. And well, depends on the YouTuber, of course. But in this case, I can't do it without you. I genuinely need you. I need this form of confirmation from others to make trolls fun. Now, perhaps that's what I relate to Rick about mostly. Maybe it's not even because he's a psychopath, but it's because he too is a troll, at least to some degree. And well, while I do concur that I do have a very similar stance in the art of trolling and in the enjoyment of trolling, Rick doesn't admit to himself that that is the reality. Rick cannot bring himself to say that the adventures are only fun because Morty's there to watch me do this wacky shit. At this point in Rick's life, he's not looking for an adrenaline boost. Maybe at some point that was how he got his highs, but right now, if you look at his adventures and what actually excites him, it's sitting with Morty watching a purge go on. You know, because it's quasi-interesting and freaks the crap out of Morty that something like this exists. It's this other consciousness that's with him. It's this other person that he cares about that he doesn't want to admit to himself he cares about. He scientifically and mathematically proves that he is worth no more than crap to him. Now that's a good grandpa, but still in his heart of hearts he loves him and he can't admit it to himself. I feel like I'm in a much better place than Rick to a certain degree and in a worse place than others. As far as my trolly, more assholey nature, I don't think I'm in this state of depression that Rick is, that he doesn't even realize he's there, and I'm not trying to do it to take my mind off my pitiful existence. I mean, I'm not saying that my existence isn't pitiful, but at least I'm not trying to take my mind off it with assholery. Yes, definitely much better. But can you even really blame Rick? The guy's the smartest guy in the multiverse. The guy is living in a state where if he ever F's up too badly in his reality and kills out everyone he cares about, he could just hop to a new one and pick up from there. It makes so many of his actions just so utterly meaningless, and he can tap into that meaninglessness and view his whole life through that lens. Rick is also smart enough to know that literally everyone betrays you at some point. You can't trust people. He's been backstabbed enough to know that from experience as well as from intelligence. And being that the dude is smart enough to literally understand how everything works in reality, I imagine he would find it extremely difficult to submit himself to anyone, be it another life form or be it God, which he quasi believes in. Before he dies, he prays, but you know, while he's not in a life or death situation, he denies the existence because there's no evidence. The worst thing about people with egos are when they can actually back that ego up and feed it. He sees himself as a living God, and he makes sure that everyone around him sees it in him too. He doesn't fear jack scheisse either. In episode 1 of season 4, Rick gets killed, and you know, it just downloads his memories, intelligence, and everything into a backup clone that he always has ready. And oh, you think you could just wipe out his clones and then he can't come back to life? Nuh-uh, it's hooked to every other Rick's cloning device in every other possible reality. The guy hacked the government computer when he was in prison with his mind, not like in a supernatural telekinetic type. Nuh-uh, he just tricked someone to upload a virus from his brain to their mainframe, and then he just took over the entire thing and wiped out like an entire civilization multiverse of like super genius organisms. He views himself as a god and he sees himself as something with no purpose. And this is definitely a bit of a paradox in his mind. I feel terrible for Rick, and that's what makes Rick Rick's such a great character, because he's someone that's really difficult to feel bad for in any other scenario. You see someone like him, he's got it all. He's got all the brains, all the tech, basically immortal, could go and do whatever he wants, has no consequences for his actions, because he could just jump to another reality, and he has the personality that's really fun to watch, like on a screen, but not fun to interact with at all. Hey, if you like watching assholes on a screen, definitely subscribe. That would be extremely dope and awesome. But despite having everything and all of that, and more that we don't even know about yet, he has a box in his garage that says time travel stuff on it. We haven't seen any time travel yet in Rick and Morty, but this mad lad's probably mastered it too. Rick is suffering because he has all of that though. Because he has everything that everyone is trying to strive for, and there's nothing for him to strive for, as well as no purpose to anything he does. That is exactly what's killing him. On the one hand, everyone wants to have these things that Rick has: the intelligence, the adventures, the gadgets, the fearlessness, someone who transcended life and death. But even though it's so cool to see and admire, it's tragic to have. With all of his intelligence combined, he can't see that he himself is suffering so bitterly, and he can't see the cure that's right before his eyes. Nihilism is probably the biggest, most recurrent theme in Rick and Morty, even though every single episode has its own philosophical arguments and dilemmas, which really is what piques my interest so much. The whole show is different shades of gray, and I originally fell in love with it. Yes, I liked the quirky adventures and the humor, but it was really the philosophical backbone to every single episode that really makes me enjoy it so much, and so much more on rewatches. I've seen Rick and Morty at least 5 times. Whenever I don't know what to watch, I just pop an episode of this crap to just play in the background while I'm doing something else. And this nihilistic theme, this beautiful web of tragedy that Rick is living through, is because his ultimate conclusion is that nothing has purpose, especially in a multiverse, especially when you understand how everything works without needing to rely on anything else, especially not needing to rely on anyone else or needing to fear anything. There is no purpose to anything in Rick's mind, but not in Rick's heart. When I say Rick and Morty taught me purpose, it really did. It taught me purpose through purposelessness. Not to say that I credit my existential existence to Rick and Morty. This cartoon has opened my eyes because I have 5,000 IQ and I was able to properly understand it. That's really not what I'm trying to say at all. At the end of the day, Rick saves Morty a lot. And he doesn't a few times either when he doesn't catch himself. But when getting to the nitty-gritty of it, in the first episode of season 2, when he was falling through space with Morty, and well, only one of them was able to survive, he let Morty survive where he would die. And this is not one of those dies that he was able to come back from. This is like getting lost in space-time and scattered throughout for eternity, which sucks a lot. But he still sacrificed himself for Morty without getting the chance to think it through. Of course, then he regretted it, but his heart was in the right place. He only decided to give himself in at the end of season 2 to the galactic government because he overheard his family expressing their distaste that now they have to live as fugitives because of him. He then, of course, in episode 1 of season 3, laughs it all off, saying, "Aha, I let them capture me because I wanted to take over literally everything," which he did, and it was extremely epic, and I loved episode 1 of season 3. A lot of people were upset because, oh, it retconned all of that feely stuff that was happening at the end of season 2. And nah, fam, that's exactly the point of the end of season 2. Rick's heart and mind are completely disassociated from each other. Rick cares just like we all care. It's just filtered through a million layers of intelligence and logic that's telling him why he shouldn't care. Appealing to logic is one of the most common symptoms of depression. It's when someone wants, with their heart, to have an emotional response. But first they think it through and say, oh, well, actually, if I crunch the numbers, crying right now won't exactly help the situation, so it's not worth crying. Sometimes you gotta cry and let it out, though. He is so reclused within himself that he deluded himself in the beginning of season 3 that the reason why he let himself get caught was to take down the government and not to save his family. Because when he overheard them speaking, he acted with his heart. Of course, his mind then immediately gets a million steps ahead and plans this whole counter strategy to take down Zawaru, though. But that's not where the feeling started. Rick's mind is telling him that nothing has purpose, but his heart at the end of the day is putting things above himself in different scenarios. With your mind, when you think through things, you can always find a reason why there is no point to anything. But with your heart, well, your heart's not that easy to trick. I've been in a place where I was depressed in the past, and I had this appeal to logic thingo that Rick exhibits very often. Obviously not to that extent, I'm not a supercomputer, but I also crushed down my emotions a heck of a lot at a point, and well, I'm glad I've been able to get past that to where I am right now. I'm in a much healthier mental state now that I'm actually outwardly a psycho, not just inwardly a psycho. Wow, all things come around, don't they? I'm still not a mushy individual, mind you. Every time I talk about something like this, I always have to somehow make a joke out of the situation. Ha ha! Isn't that hilarious? Because I'm obviously not 100% mentally healthy, and I don't think anyone is, to be honest. Everyone's a different shade of gray in that area, and it's something that we all have to muddle through to try to hone to be as sharp of a point as we can. But one thing that I have become is relatively self-aware, something that Rick is not. Watching from an outsider, it's clear to see these things. That, oh, Rick actually does care about people around him. Oh, would you look at that? He's not actually just a supercomputer Nazi. But we are just watching this from the outside. You have to remember that Rick's brain is hardwired against all of that crap. And sometimes it's so much harder to understand yourself than to understand anyone else as a second or third party in a scenario. So, Rick is gallivanting through the Rick and Morty series, living a life of no purpose. He says there is no purpose to life. He says it again and again, and nihilism, as I've mentioned, is the most recurrent theme in the series. But it's his lack of purpose that teaches us what purpose really is. You gotta live with your heart and not just your mind. You can wish for any materialistic thing in the world and wish to become as badass as you possibly can. But just like with Rick's assholery that he needs to share with someone else to appreciate, and just like every troll that needs that third party, his heart does too. His mind may tell him there's no purpose, and he may be telling us viewers that there's no purpose. But watching, we're seeing exactly what the purpose is. The purpose is to feel. Everything is purposeless if you don't have anyone to share it with. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy this video. Please hit the like, 50k likes, and I will be doing another Rick and Morty video probably in a week from now. If it hits the like goal within a week, damn it, it will happen. Definitely smash like. And also subscribe to see when that does come out, because even if it doesn't reach the like goal, let's be honest, I am going to do another Rick and Morty video eventually. It just will not be within a week. Within a week, 50k likes. You know the deal. I really appreciate all of you that came to watch this video. I genuinely do. It's really you guys that makes this worth doing, especially the more assholey trolly videos. But honestly, opening my heart to you guys is only because I really appreciate what you guys do for me. You guys help more than you could even imagine, and I genuinely do appreciate it. Links in the description to my Twitter, subreddit, merch, Twitch, Patreon, all that stuff. Feel free to check it out. Put a lot of work into this one. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this, since it's not exactly my usual content, but it's something that I'm very happy with how it came out. And let me know in the comments what future Rick and Morty videos you're interested in, covering what topics. Thank you for everything. I love you guys. And I think the moral of this video is, let your inner psycho out sometimes. Find friends that like your inner psycho. And remember to stay weird, fam.